Donald Trump's visit to the United Kingdom was supposed to be a grand diplomatic moment, but instead it turned into a spectacle that many are calling nothing short of humiliating. From the moment he arrived at Windsor Castle, the visit had all the makings of a ceremonial disaster. Instead of being treated like a statesman, Trump was paraded around in a golden carriage as if he were some overgrown toddler needing a distraction. To most observers, it didn't look presidential. It looked performative. It looked like Britain had figured out how to handle him, keep him entertained with shiny objects and hollow gestures so he walks away feeling important. Now, carriage rides at Windsor are usually designed as public displays, full of pomp and pageantry meant to showcase tradition. But this was different. Trump's ride wasn't a procession through cheering crowds. Instead, he was quietly looped around the private castle grounds out of public sight. Commentators compared the scene to a Disneyland ride. Fun for a child, meaningless for a leader. And it wasn't just American critics saying this. The British press, known for sharp and sometimes cutting humor, openly mocked the entire charade. One writer even noted that it looked more like babysitting at the taxpayer's expense than honoring a president. But the embarrassment didn't stop with the carriage. What really fueled the fire was the wave of trolling that greeted Trump upon his arrival. In London, protesters projected a massive 9-minute video montage onto the walls of Windsor Tower itself. This wasn't just any video, it was a carefully constructed timeline of Donald Trump's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The images showed them together at parties in the 1990s, photographs from Mar-a-Lago, and even a note from Trump calling Epstein the greatest. It was a brutal reminder that no matter where he goes, the shadow of Epstein follows. The stunt was bold, risky, and powerful. But here's the catch. The activists behind it were arrested. Unlike in the United States, the United Kingdom doesn't have the same First Amendment protections. Over there, projecting something like that on the walls of a royal landmark can get you detained. Still, the point was made. Even under threat of arrest, people were willing to call out Trump's history and make sure the world didn't forget. And that's why this moment resonated far beyond Britain. It wasn't just trolling. It was a public statement that Trump cannot escape his scandals, no matter how far he travels. And while the projection rattled Trump's image abroad, Gavin Newsom jumped on the opportunity to amplify the humiliation. He shared the video online, calling it an Epstein welcome, making sure it reached audiences back in the United States. That phrase, Epstein welcome, quickly caught on. It became a shorthand reminder of how Trump's past continues to haunt him. And in the age of social media, once something like that sticks, it spreads fast. Now, if the carriage ride and the Epstein projection weren't embarrassing enough, Trump's own words made things worse. When it came time to deliver his speech, the former president looked completely out of his depth. He stumbled over his lines, slurred phrases, and at times it sounded like he didn't even understand what he was reading. Commentators said the speech sounded robotic, as if it had been written by artificial intelligence and handed to a man struggling to follow along. And in true Trump fashion, he couldn't resist teasing something outrageous, the idea of a third term. He dropped hints, joked about it, and dangled it in front of his audience as if the Constitution were just a suggestion. Now, the law could not be clearer. Presidents are limited to 2 terms. Period. You don't need a law degree to understand that. But Trump continues to play this game, throwing out the possibility as if to test how far his base will follow him. It's the same pattern we saw with his refusal to accept election results. He plants the seed of chaos and watches to see who waters it. The reaction to the speech was swift. Critics called it incoherent and dangerous. Supporters brushed it off as typical Trump showmanship. But either way, the performance didn't project strength. It projected weakness, confusion, and desperation. And when you combine that with the image of him riding around in a golden carriage like a pampered monarch, the optics couldn't have been worse. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Trump's troubles weren't just playing out in Britain. Back home, he had just launched a TikTok account hoping to connect with younger audiences. But instead of support, the account was immediately flooded with negative comments. People called him the most corrupt president in history. They wrote that Gavin Newsom spoke for them, not Trump. Instead of rallying new fans, the platform became a public forum for mocking him. The very audience he was trying to reach turned against him. And while Trump was busy entertaining himself in Windsor, Americans were grappling with rising inflation. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell delivered a sobering update reporting that consumer prices had risen significantly over the past year. Everyday essentials, food, gas, housing, were all getting more expensive. Inflation had been picking up again after showing signs of easing earlier in the year. And Powell, calm and steady as always, explained the numbers in a way that made sense. Here's the striking contrast. Jerome Powell looked like a leader. He came across as competent, prepared, and trustworthy. He was honest about the challenges facing the country. But as many pointed out, someone like Powell could never win the presidency in America. Why? Because in our political system, it's not enough to be good at your job. You have to be charismatic. You have to dominate headlines. You have to play the political game. As in Powell, while brilliant, doesn't fit that mold. That's the irony. On one side, you have Powell, boring but reliable, focused on policy and stability. On the other, you have Trump, loud, chaotic, obsessed with image, and yet completely disconnected from the struggles people face at home. While Powell was talking about inflation, Trump was playing make-believe in a carriage thousands of miles away. The contrast couldn't be sharper. In the end, Trump's trip to the UK didn't strengthen his image. It shattered it. He was mocked by the British, overshadowed by his own scandals, and once again revealed to be out of touch with ordinary Americans. What should have been an opportunity to show statesmanship turned into a parade of embarrassments. From the Epstein projection to the awkward speech, from the TikTok backlash to the inflation crisis, everything about this visit highlighted Trump's vulnerability. And that's the real takeaway. Leadership isn't about golden carriages or stage ceremonies. It isn't about pretending to be loved by riding in circles on castle grounds. Leadership is about substance. It's about honesty, competence, and the ability to face challenges head on. On this trip, Trump showed none of that. Instead, he gave the world another reminder of why he is unfit for leadership. So while the images of Windsor might fade, the message won't. Donald Trump's attempt at a royal moment backfired, leaving him looking smaller than ever. And as inflation rises and real problems pile up at home, the contrast between spectacle and substance has never been clearer. Trump may love the show, but the rest of us are left dealing with the consequences.